Welcome back to the next edition of the Neo Reality Thoughts series. I'm Neo Reality, and it has been a long time. It's been a long time. I know. But with Elimination Chamber coming up, I gotta have to get back to the swing of things. And I was originally gonna come back earlier this week, but I come down with some cold or something. I'm recovering from that right now, and also I've been busy with work and all that. So I wanted to talk about something. Originally, I was planning to talk about the Royal Rumble matches, but then ultimately changed my mind following what happened on Monday, and I might go back to that later. But still, instead, I decided to talk about a comic series that had happened back in let's see if I'm correct, around 2006 to 2007, which was took place after the events of Infinite Crisis. Following the events of Infinite Crisis, there was a decision by DC to basically jump all their DC titles at the time to 1 year later so everyone could recover and implement a new status quo to everything. And this led to them eventually deciding, okay, you know what? Let's do a weekly comic series. Yeah, that's it. A weekly comic series. They would publish 52 issues of a weekly comic series written by four of the best writers the DC has at in their time. And these writers were Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, and Mark Waid. And Jeff Johns, the writer of Doomsday Clock and the master of the retcon ability. Grant Morrison, the guy who just says, okay, I'm writing a story about a guy who dresses as a bat, a woman made from clay, a guy who comes from another planet and preaches about the American way. Yeah, why should I take anything of this seriously? Let's just embrace the madness. And if you see Wisecracks' video about Grant Morrison, you'll start to understand why he might be a little crazy. And Mark Waid, most famous for the story of Thy Kingdom Come, the Elseworld story of featuring Earth. I'm trying to remember. It was part of the multiverse. But yeah. This weekly series was decided to be a event storyline featuring bunch of side characters focusing on the missing year, where it's imagining a world that does not have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, because following the events of Infinite Crisis, which I'm still covering in my other series of videos, I'll get back to that at a later date. I already read finished the OMAC project. It was chose to focus on how the world dealt with the disappearance of the Trinity. Because in Infinite Crisis, Superman lost his powers during the battle with Superboy Prime, Batman wanted to rediscover himself to stop being a paranoid lunatic, and Wonder Woman went ahead and decided to find herself in an identity phase because we gotta build up to Amazon's attack and screw all of Wonder Woman's mythos and then screw her up. At least until Gail Simone comes in and saves the day. And the thing I heard about this series was a lot of praise. I also the thing that got me interested in wanting to read this series is really Linkara. Yeah, Linkara is the reason why I've just got interested in this series and for my return to comics in general. But ultimately, this project of mine is to cover 13 issues. I'm not kidding. 13 issues of the series, because originally it was sold in 4 trade paperbacks after it was all done, where they would cover 13 issues each. And I might talk about World War III, the tie-in event that happened that features Black Adam going on a massacre spree. And ultimately, I have the 2-part volume box set where it comes with weeks 1 through 26. And I have the other one on my shelf over there, which will be covered at a later date. And this comic is, and I've heard all the praises about it. This is what Entertainment Weekly says: as addictive as any good TV series. And then this is what Salem was quoted in saying, 52 encompasses space opera, hard-boiled detective fiction, psychological suspense, light comedy, grand guttural violence, medical drama, and straight-up good guys versus bad guys actions, all butting up against one another. The Washington Post graded it A-, saying this: 4 comics' brightest writers seamlessly combine their characterization and conceptualization strengths to construct the gripping real-time narrative. And this was considered, and according to the back of this, it says revolutionary. DC's groundbreaking publication of the weekly comic 52 tells the story of a missing year within the DC universe in real time. The cataclysmic events of Infinite Crisis have left the world out as three biggest icons: Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And the question is asked, who will stand up in their absence? Four of the most critically acclaimed writers in comics, Jeff Johns, Grant Morrison, Greg Rucka, Mark Waid, are joined by breakdown artist Keith Griffin and a host of the industry's finest pencilers and inkers to create this unprecedented event in comics history. Now in the first of 2 volumes, 52 is collected with bonus material after each chapter, including concept designs, page breakdowns, scripts, and alternate story elements, and more. Collects 52 issues 1 through 26. And I'll pick that up later. And basically, this is going to be a very long 4-part video process. You've seen my talk about Doomsday Clock. I haven't talked about the first issue yet. But whereas I covered only a couple issues at one video, and that was 42 minutes long, and that was just me trying to skim through as best as I could while also keeping the major details in. So now I'm going to cover 4 videos, where it's basically talks about 13 issues each in this book. And yeah, that's that's going to be a thing. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty ambitious project in my opinion. For at least a little bit. But, yeah. Seeing this story in my hands, I really have enjoyed these issues so far. Like I say, it's like a good television series. Like, I reread the first 13 issues just to keep track on it. I even have the scans online just to skim through everything. But featuring this, a lot of people seem to really love this event storyline. Linkara loves it. That got me interested in reading this event. And the other major thing is there's actually one person I know that hates this with a fiery passion. Dan DiDio, the executive editor before becoming the head of DC. It was quoted by someone, I can't remember who, but if you want to look at Linkara's video of the countdown prologue, the spiritual follow-up of this event, where he talks about how Dan DiDio reportedly hated the comic, hated the series, would storm up and down the halls telling everybody how much he hated it and saying that that countdown was 52 done right, which basically said, I'm the editor, which means I control the story, the writers could go screw themselves, and I know what's best for the DC Universe because I have never written a comic in my life. I think. Primarily because I hate Wally West, but that's a different subject. So yeah, this is a very comprehensive story featuring various side characters, and initially it was originally focusing on the Trinities of the world without the Trinity, but then as time went on, something happened. The story grew organic and it strayed from its main objective and instead decided to be setting up for future storylines and future character development, focusing on the B-list heroes or the minor heroes of the DC universe and give them a chance to shine, which was one of the strengths of 52, which means that, yes, we took all the lesser-known characters and said, you know what? Let's give them the spotlight. Let's give them a spotlight in this weekly comic series featuring all sorts of craziness and tying in together the DC universe in this comprehensive weekly comic that 4 of our best writers of DC at the time can do with an artist, and let's hope nothing goes wrong. And surprisingly enough, nothing went wrong from what I know, other than Dan DiDio having a hissy fit. So yeah, this has been considered an ambitious project by people at DC at the time because it was considered unnatural nowadays. Like, there was Action Comics Weekly, but that was decades ago. And now with technology, art, and whatnot being more complicated, you would think that this wouldn't work. But it did. They found a way. So yeah, 52 was basically, like I said, this big weekly event comic featuring the 4 best writers, featuring the master of retcon, the master of embracing the insanity, the master of the Elseworld stories, and the master of political fictions and Gotham stories. So yeah, you take all these elements together and you got a big recipe for something great if it's so much able to tell their story their way. So we're on the first issue, and yeah, basically we see all these shards of the past history. Like if you really look at them, you see Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, Black Adam, um, Donna Troy, Starfire and Robin, Dick Grayson, age whatever. You see the elongated man mourning over the death of his wife and from Identity Crisis, Sue Dibney. Yeah, that didn't end well. The Joker's cards and all that. All these shards coming together and circling around and then ultimately creating this massive explosion that shows the Earth, basically referencing the events of Infinite Crisis. And then we open up with the first day of the week. Ralph Dibny holds a gun in his hand. And yeah. So yeah, Ralph Dibny's life kind of went to hell following Identity Crisis. Like, he lost his powers, he's lost his wife, he lost his who was pregnant at the time, because, you know, that's clearly good at work. And yeah, also it turns out his house was destroyed in the event of Infinite Crisis, like split in half. So Ralph is like, okay, I have a gun, I think it's time. Yeah. Meanwhile, we focus on yet another character, Renee Montoya, who had recently in the DC timeline in before 52, I believe Greg Rucka covered that, where Renee Montoya was a lesbian, and I was like, okay. And basically, it covers these events going on with these characters, and then we go focusing on not just those two, but then we transition to Steel and helping with the recovery efforts. Then Ralph Dibny is talking, looking over the ruins of his house, the ruins of his life, basically. And yeah, things are not looking good. Like, Renee Montoya is getting drunk and smoking up a lot because of her relationship ending. Steele's trying to help as many people as he can following the crisis that had happened. And Ralph is holding that gun, and he's clearly planning something. And in a way of saying, we're being subtle, there's a sign by Renee Montoya that says 52 pickups. Okay. Then we transition to the fourth day of the week, and basically recovery efforts are going on. Steele's trying to help as many people as he can. And then we went over to the day 5, where we see, look, up in the sky! It's bird! It's plane! It's super... Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's some guy named Booster Gold. Booster Gold here, ladies and gentlemen. He's from the future. How cool is that? A.K.A. Skit's talking about this. And if you notice something on Booster Gold's chest, there's a lot of product placements. Yeah. So, yeah, Booster Gold is saving the day, trying to be Metropolis' new hero in the wake of Superman's absence, and is trying to be a good guy and hero and whatnot. However... there's just one tiny little problem. Yeah, he's basically a walking advertisement. Yeah, Booster Gold, sometime between Infinite Crisis and this, after he came back from the future, after he left and during the events of the OMAC project, I believe, he had went because he felt like he failed. Like, really think about it. Like, Ted Kord was killed by Maxwell Lord. Everything he knew about Maxwell Lord was a lie, according to the writer Jeff Johns. And yeah, and he's kind of becoming egotistical now because he's now trying to get sponsorship deals and basically throwing his name out there. And like, when a hero acts like that, you don't really want to root for them. But in the light of the events of Infinite Crisis, you, yeah. So... yeah, yeah, they also talk about the Boy of Steel, aka Connor Kent, and yeah, he died in Infinite Crisis. And unlike in the Young Justice show where he's in a relationship with, that woman who had toyed with his mind. Oh, God. And is now getting married. I'll cover that video. I'll cover that in a later video. But, he was in a relationship with Wonder Girl, aka Cassandra Sandsmark, whatever, in the comic universe. Well, in the pre-New 52, I don't know what happened in the new landscape. I don't think they liked each other in the romantic sense, and I don't even think they liked each other on a mutual sense. So, yeah, but that was the 52 system. We don't know what's going to happen for them in the DC Rebirth since the Young Justice was reintroduced in the Wonder Comics imprint. So, yeah, Booster is using the abilities of his time traveling of his future knowledge of basically having Sketch be his computer to basically tell him, okay, there's going to be a series of disasters going to come after these events, so I need you to basically tell me what's going to happen beforehand so I can get there in advance timing. Meanwhile, Ralph Dibny, basically is going ahead and depressed, and then he contemplates suicide, and he even puts a gun in his mouth. And then he stopped when he gets a call from a cemetery talking about how someone has found a message on his wife's tombstone, causing him to stop his suicide attempt and basically investigate that later on. So, yeah, Natasha, aka Miss Steel, I think, Captain Steel's trying to calm her down, and yeah, he basically deems her unworthy of the armor she was given and dismantles her suit, much to Natasha's pissed offness. And then we cut to Black Adam in a foreign country. I think it's Karak. I could be wrong. He's basically talking about how they have a mission after the events of what happened in Infinite Crisis. He feels duped and he wants to basically go back to his country and basically take over. And then Black Adam stops a suicide bomber and rips his arm off and chokes him to death. Then we cut back to, this is going to be one thing. In the early issues, the issues kind of just quickly snap back and forth to this and this and this and that. So that's probably one problem some people can say in the early issues, but really, I can understand that. I can understand what they were trying to do. They try to set up, like, this is a year-long event, weekly comic, and you're telling them, okay, we need you to set up multiple plot lines, we need to set up a story here, and we also need to tell tales taking place after the Infinite Crisis, Identity Crisis, the OMAC Project, so in case multiple characters at once. Yeah. So, we then move forward to some mad scientists just investigating and doing some research. And then we cut away from that, going back to the ultimate funeral of Superboy and all that craziness that's going on. And, basically they're preparing a huge statement funeral event where Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman are supposed to give this big speech about it's gonna change the world or something like that. And turns out that something's wrong with Skits, and they find out that they're not coming to the funeral, and the one who tells them is Clark Kent. I'm surprised Booster doesn't know this. Oh, yeah, by the way, Booster accidentally punches Clark Kent. Like I said, he's been depowered. So, and let's see how much time has passed. 19 minutes. Okay, we're in for a long one. And this is just the first issue. So we see that someone's peeling off the Batman logo off the spotlight that's used by Commissioner Gordon and the police of Gotham, and this guy spray paints a question mark. It's revealed to me the question, and then he just says, "I can see you." And meanwhile, Renee Montoya goes home and gets drunk again before a bright light happens, and and basically, Renee doesn't know, but the question that says, "Are you ready?" Are you ready? For the thousands in attendance, to the millions watching at home, let's get ready to suck it! I had to. Now let's transition to the second issue of this 13-issue series I'm doing in this video. So, following this, we get Ralph Dibny taking a picture of his wife's tombstone, which has been marked. And, yeah, he's remembering, the events of Identity Crisis, and tears are in his eyes saying, Sue. And then someone comes to them. Yeah, this guy talks to Ralph Dibny, and they reminisce about a time when, where this guy says he met Ralph Dibny and Sue Dibny way back in Dreamland Park, and Ralph Dibny talks about the good old days and how there was this investigation, and how this guy says, "Oh no, that was my brother, dude. You were amazing, like Batman, amazing." And they're just talking about this little reminiscing of the past, and reveals that it's a mystery about someone defiling the grave of Sue Dibny. And sure enough, we transitioned to a place called where Booster Gold's trying to figure out what's wrong with Skits, and he has someone helping him repair everything and trying to figure out what's wrong. That would be later revealed later on in the story. I'm probably sure in Volume 2 in the trade paperback collection I have. But speaking of this, when I got this was at Books A Million. And for some reason, it was difficult to find the second trade paperback. I had to get this at Barnes & Noble in Colorado. That's also where I got the Infinity Comic event, so I say that's an accomplishment. So yeah, they're trying to figure out what's wrong with Skits, and they're saying they did repairs, and they hopefully fixed it. Then we cut to another guy. Okay, I'm just going to be leveling with you. I'm trying to remember a lot of characters' names. Like, I know who Booster Gold is from the Heroes in Crisis series I'm reading and whatnot. And I knew Ralph Dibny and Sue Dibny because I looked at Linkara's Identity Crisis video. So, yeah, I'm right now trying to keep track of all the characters that are being in the DC universe. And that's pretty next to insane. So, I'm going to have to might skim some things. All I know is that this guy is kind of looking like he's gone crazy. Talking about how he's been through a lot, how much he appreciates the visits. I think the guy who's talking to him is the Question Unmasked. I could be wrong. But then we transition to the third day of the week, where they decide to have the Question just be a little perv and break into Renee Montoya's house where she's sleeping with a naked woman. And sure enough, Renee Montoya shoots a gun at him. Yeah. And then she gets a message saying 520 Kane Street, and basically leaves a question mark, basically saying, okay, come and find me. Sure enough, Booster Gold continues his heroism of publicity, where he stops all these events from occurring, and yeah, apparently there was an incident where apparently people in this all note before Booster Gold had died. According to a newspaper, we get a side where it says hundreds dead on flight 2428, where people had died. I can't tell if this was from the unaltered timeline before Booster Gold came around, or when thing went to hell. So yeah, Renee Montoya continues to drink away her problems, and then ultimately decides to go find the Question. And sure enough, basically the best way to introduce each other is Renee Montoya to attack the Question and get thrown by the Question into a bunch of garbages. And yeah, the question just says, basically is not answering the whole being shot in the stomach area. But apparently the question wishes to hire Renee Montoya, and says he's going to hire her $200 a day plus expenses, first 3 weeks paid in advance. And say don't judge the building by how it looks, judge it by how it's being used and by who, and how she still has questions. And basically, I'm surprised the question doesn't say, we all have questions, Montoya. We then cut to a ceremony featuring the cult of Connor. Yeah, by the way, after Connor was killed, there was a cult formed in his honor. And we cut to this girl who's talking, saying this. And even as Krypton's red sun beams in the evening skies, know and remember that it is by strength of our faith and our love that your path stays as bright as our eyes of Lady Candor herself. So say we all, 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 so say we all. Transmission ended. And it's revealed to have been Wonder Girl who had made that public statement, I believe. And she's in mourning because, like I said, she was in a relationship with Connor, and yeah, so everything ended tragically there. And it's revealed that Ralph Dibny had done his research and investigated, where it's revealed that, yeah, I know you defaced my wife's grave with these inverted S, whereas a Krypton is translated to hope, but when it's reversed upside down, it stands for something altogether, resurrection. So, yeah, at least it's not the events of, pissing people off. Yeah. Yeah, imagine if they did that. Now let's cut to issue 3 of this event. Yeah, I'm at 27 minutes now. Oh man, this is going to be a long video. So we reach to week 3, day 1, and it's revealed that, yeah, someone's dead, and they realize it looks a lot like Lex Luthor. Then we cut to Power Girl trying to stop a villain, and Power Girl is ultimately, and the investigation is practically stopped when Black Adam attacks, and basically, yeah. Black Adam is kind of reaching this anti-aggressive hero route, and Terror Man, as he's called, was trying to rob ferries and flights over the Mediterranean Sea, and how Black Adam comments that you are now over the northeast east of Africa, Kandark's airspace, and he will not tolerate it. And then comments about why he's doing it, and say about how, yeah, Black Adam was kind of still pissed about how Luthor portrayed him and how everything was happening. And then Black Adam reveals how many people died in the crisis that happened previously. 5,790,432. Black Adam says that he did what he had to do to protect his people, and they are protecting now it's time for something more. And basically he's threatening to ally with the world and basically do some craziness. So we go back to Natasha and her Uncle John, and they're having a huge argument about how she's so great at science, however she is not really interested in the English reading and poetry and all that, and how she says, poets offer poets do poetry. I'm a scientist. I got more important things to do than read a bunch of books by dead whack guys. Yeah, that certainly will not piss anyone off. And basically, Natasha is advocating for that she is not restrained and composed. And yeah, she's getting pissed off more, and yeah. Then we cut to Black Adam once again in Karak, where he's offered a substantial payment from a woman by a group called Intergang. And Black Adam just looks and just tears one of the Intergang members' heads off, and proceeds to kill the captors. and saves the woman that basically was enslaved. And then we cut to this guy who's talking about how, hey Adam, I like your style. Brutal murder in ways that make no sense whatsoever other than them being scum. Preach the Kadak way. So yeah, Skitch tells this seller of a small little vending area where he says, "Yeah, I need you to move out of the way, please." And sure enough, that saves his life. So yeah, Booster is trying to save the day again, saving lives, and basically self-plugging himself, and how certain events aren't supposed to be happening, and someone was arrested. And he's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. Rip Hunter is trying to figure out what's going on from this. And yeah. Then we cut back to John Irons. And I don't know why I said Jeremy Irons. And basically he's looking at Lex Luthor and how this is not really Lex Luthor. And we have more proof on that because Lex Luthor is talking to the press. And claims that yes, it's a different different version of him and from another reality, one where he was and basically how he's gone into madness and basically he's trying to clear his name. And admits that yeah, you can't trust me, but I know you can trust the doctors. And sadly, the doctors would have to confirm this. And then we cut to Black Adam basically having a group of people basically addressing people, and basically says this: "Thank you all for coming. Over the last year, I've rededicated myself to the people of Karak. That ends today. The world has celebrated the aversion of disaster. They have praised the heroes who stood up to them. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But where are they now? I hope to gather allies. Allies who will deliver messages to everyone out there looking to take advantage of the hero's absence. The first message is simple. People like this man don't deserve to live." And proceeds to kill and throw blood all over the people of Metropolis in ways of gory detail. It's time for heroes who don't just patrol the world, they change it. So yeah, that certainly helped a lot. Now we cut to the next issue, week 4. As this goes on, we go back to the Question and how he's and how Renee Montoya and the Question are doing their little investigation. Then we cut to space and how, yeah, everything's just normal on that. Then we cut to Booster Gold and I think Jade, and yeah, basically they're arguing about the whole sponsorship stuff that he's doing and how he helped save the future that spat in his face. And then he says, "It's all about me. It is about me. And I'm a privileged, entitled bastard." And Jade, sure enough, is pissed off and burns the door open. And then, sure enough, the Question pops out of nowhere when Renee Montoya is about to take a smoke and freaks her out. And basically, she says, "I hate you. Nice doodles. Bite me. Can't. No mouth." And yeah, basically the Question talks about how there's cyanide gas in the cigarettes she smokes and how it's used in gas chambers. And then she just proceeds to blow smoke into his face. And he just says, "That's very mature. I thought so. Keep up the good work. Hey, wait a minute. You solved my notes. There's nothing going on here. Not yet. There will be, I'm sure of it. We'll talk again later. Don't hold your breath. 4 more days, buddy. That's it. 4 more days. Then I'm done." Yeah, you say that now. And sure enough, Steel is currently working on some stuff, and yeah. Uncle John's working on some stuff and is talking to one of his, and is basically reminiscing about some certain projects going on. And then, sure enough, he starts having this weird illness going on him. and he's kind of hallucinating, talking to the steel he's speaking to somehow. And then sure enough, an explosion happens. Yeah. And his whole body's being covered in steel. Then we cut to the cult of Connor, talking with, talking to Ralph Dibny about something. It's like an initiation of sorts. And how there's this sacred water event that he's supposed to see. And sure enough, it's revealed that they took his wedding ring, and he's all confused about that. Sure enough, Renee Montoya continues and starts to realize someone broke into the house and now starts to investigate with the question, and they go into the basement. And sure enough, they're attacked by a crazed alligator-like creature monster, and hijinks ensue. So, yeah, and then it's revealed Renee Montoya got a super fancy gun. And now we're in the U.S. military, and how there's some event with the Justice Society, specifically, not the Justice Society, a series of heroes, one of them being Alan Scott, the Green Lantern of the Justice Society. And right now they're trying to figure out what the heck happened. Something from a space event that they were going on during the events of Infinite Crisis. And sure enough, we cut to this family where... yeah, it turns out they've been gone for a month, and then it turns out Alan Scott returns and tells them how, about Animal Man is missing in space, and then she says that there's still hope they're still alive, and that leads to another plot line in the event storyline, and yeah, basically Renee Montoya, we see Booster Gold, and Lex Luthor talking about how he wants to redeem himself. We then cut to Superman and Lois Lane. We cut to a variety of people where Luthor is giving a speech. And he's basically offering these new things to help the age of super citizens is dawning. And yeah, they're trying to figure out what happened in space following the events and what happened to Hawkgirl and whatnot. Then it's revealed that Animal Man was gone and how there's a lot of injuries and critical stuff going on. They're in the recovery. As far as I know, there we see there we get this gigantic, what looks like to be a double page thing going on where a series of chaotic images is shown in this. And then, yeah, Alan Scott's covering about this issue, talking about it. And then we go back and, yeah. Sure enough, Renee Montoya's seen and she's talking. And to an old friend of hers. Yeah. Sure enough, Alan Scott's trying to save somebody who's dying, and Hawkgirl's kind of in the state, and Laserbeam, I'm confused by that too. And basically proceeds to save some people, leading to a sonic boom, and then this guy starts screaming 52, 52, and then collapses. And then it's revealed that were Red Tornado's last words and about what's coming. And it turns out that something happened, but no idea. Oh, I know what happened with 52. It's the weekly comic series. Oh, no way. I think it's revolving around the return of the multiverse. So yeah, we then cut to Animal Man and Starfire trying to figure out what to do now since they're trapped, and Starfire's all naked and whatnot. Yeah. And Animal Man seems to be really professional and not willing to look at Starfire because, yeah, thank God for that, he's a married man. Unlike an incident that happened just recently on Twitter, and we will never talk about that, because if I did, I will have to be pissed off. So yeah, Starfire and Animal Man and another guy are talking and how they're not alone. So that's gonna be a problem for every single person. Let's move over to issue 6 as we try to get to more issues past, and we're at the 39-minute mark. We cut to week 6, and sure enough, it's kind of revealed that Booster Gold is paying people off to commit acts of terror, I think. Um, yeah. Yeah. Sure enough, chaos is brewing in China. Yeah. And as this chaos is all going on with the various superheroes and villains, all of a sudden chaos continues, and we just cut right out of that and go forward to these people talking about something going on, and yeah, they're discussing Doctor Mangus, I think that's his name, and how they're watching him, and there's cameras all over the place. And then we cut back to China. Chaos is still brewing, and fighting is intensifying. Black Adam suddenly pops out of nowhere, and basically is warning them to not mess with me, and basically threatening world war. Yeah, there's basically threatening war. And Black Adam says, and we don't want that, do we? I'm like, we just got done with the Infinite Crisis event. We don't need another war going on. Then we cut to Booster Gold once again. He's investigating Rip Hunter's basement, and it turns out time is broken and how it's all Booster Gold's fault. Somehow. Yeah, all the writing says it's a conspiracy-based attitude. Yipes. So let's move on to week 7, where Booster Gold is exposed. But then we first cut to Starfire and Animal Man and this other guy eating alien fruit. Yeah. Yeah, it turns out to be Adam Strange. So yeah, they're just eating random alien fruit, so that's clearly a good idea. And sure enough, we cut back to Renee Montoya and basically listening to the radio or something like this. And how she's giving her thoughts about how she hates the show and whatnot. And then we cut to see talking about someone named Cade and it's been too long and whatnot. Something about past relationship. And then sure enough, Booster Gold is contacting someone saying, I want my money and whatnot. And sure enough, Ralph Dibny comes, and yeah, in the process of his grief, I'm surprised he has not yet done the, you could have stopped this, you son of a bitch, you bastard. And yeah, basically he does exactly that. He looks at Booster, and yeah, he then just screams at Booster, slams him into the wall, and say, "Why the hell did you warn me my wife was going to die? You could have stopped this, you bastard!" And Booster says he doesn't know every single little detail. And then Booster just gets pissed off. And Ralph gets pissed off, saying, "Little detail?" And then it turns out that Skitch reveals that, it turns out that, Skitch, it turns out he has the information about what happened to Jean Loring, and Ralph is pissed off, and Ralph wants him to prove that he's a hero and not just celebrity pitchman. Yeah, that's not going to go well. He tells him to prove it when there's a disaster. And then we cut away from that back to Renee Montoya, and she's doing her little talks with everybody. And yeah, her friend punches, Kate Kane punches her in the face. Yeah. And then she said, "I assume this means you're still in the closet." And then Kate just screams out, "You self-righteous! Not so loud!" Yeah, and basically they're doing that, and she's just provoking an old flame. And yeah. So Metropolis is currently in chaos, and he's trying to save the day or something like that. Then it's revealed that, Booster may have paid somebody off to do this, and then Ralph Dibny's pissed off. And sure enough, Booster's image is completely destroyed. And then Ralph decides to piss him off more by saying, "You let Sue down, you let whole city of Metropolis down, you let Ted Core down, and as someone who's currently going through a lot of emotional damage, I'm going to go ahead and use emotional damage on you." So yeah, everyone's kind of pissed off. Starfire's doing her own little thing, trying to find something to go on about this. Then they come across a gigantic machine man. And sure enough, that's the end of that issue. And then we move forward to the 8th issue. Yeah, this is, like I said, this is going to be a long stuff. Then we cut to issue number 8. And sure enough, Natasha is trying to fix her armor. And how she's trying to and John wants to give herself a rest. And yeah. Natasha's trying to fix everything, and then sure enough, Uncle John's kind of having these weird steel abilities forming on his body, and there's some looters going on, and turns out the person that stopped the looter is turns out that this is Green Arrow is talking with Ralph Dibny, and they're talking about the whole Cult of Connor incident and how he's in contact with them. And Green Arrow and him are talking about it, and Ralph Dibny is believing that, wait, are they trying to resurrect the dead? And sure enough, Ralph Dibny's starting to get very interested about this. Everyone's favorite Uncle John is currently trying to figure out what's going on with him. And he apparently might have the Meta gene. And it turns out that, Lex Luthor might have done something to him, causing panic, causing him to get pissed off a bit, where it turns out that once Natasha finds out, she's going to be very pissed. Sure enough, there's a new hero on the block named Supernova. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. And Booster is kind of pissed off about how his public relations has been tarnished. Skits is trying to tell him to stop talking. And then Natasha learns this about the Everyman Project, and then she gets pissed off, calls him a hypocrite. And then she's working on the armor, causing her to get hurt, and the armor's destroyed again. And then it turns out that Natasha calls him a hypocrite, and saying that Uncle John's just lying all the time, and how this is all just basically a gigantic lie. And I'm like, could you even give yourself a chance to let him explain himself, that he found something that Lex Luthor did to him? But no, she doesn't want to listen. I can understand her anger. So, yeah, we can understand that. And then we cut back to Animal Man, Adam Strange, and Starfire. They're captured by the giant, what looks like to be Galactus. And Lex Luthor's trying to do the whole Everyman Project thing. And he's the first, and Natasha's the first subject, so that's not going to end well. And now let's move forward to issue number 9. So, yeah, basically, everyone's favorite John is kind of pissed off and is demanding to know where Natasha is. And he's basically threatening to murder Lex. And, yeah, Natasha steps in and stops him. And they start fighting, and how she doesn't want his help because, they're kind of fed up with this. And how she doesn't want to talk, and basically she's become Lex Luthor's puppet, unknowingly. So meanwhile, the miniature-sized Galactus is currently trying to prepare to start killing someone, most likely. He says that he is the god of pursuit. And, you stood at the center of the universe. You saw beyond the veil, beyond the 212 walls of heaven. That knowledge belongs to the gods alone. Yeah. Then they proceed to escape and start wailing on the god of pursuit. And sure enough, they escape, and the god pursues not done. We then cut to the question and Renee Montoya, and sure enough, there's almost hey, how about you soon? Assume soon, and sure enough, they're talking, and then the question puts on his mask, and they're investigating again about the Intergang, and then we get the debut of Batwoman. And oh boy, I wonder who this is. Yeah, this is the debut of Batwoman. Turns out that in 52, Batwoman as a concept was around way back when, during the Golden Age. But Batwoman as a mainstay character was introduced in this beauty of an event. So that leads to some things. Like, she does not have, like, although she is technically in the Bat family by some, she's kind of not. Then we come back to Black Adam and how, yeah, it turns out there's this ceremony going on, and then Black Adam realizes that woman that was hostage, basically has the kind of has the balls to tell Black Adam that you're nothing but a terrorist, and she spits in his face and says, "Not wise." And yeah, basically what goes on is that that Clark Kent's being threatened with firing, and then he decides to do something incredibly stupid. And yeah, Clark Kent decides to jump off the building in order for Supernova to catch him, so he can do an interview with him, much to Supernova's surprise. And yeah, Black Adam is talking with these soldiers, and then she gets up on his own, and then this woman just stands up to Black Adam, even though she's basically talking to someone who's a god to her. And yeah, basically Black Adam says that, yeah, how she's free to leave, and she says to Black Adam that you're not going to change the world, you're on this crusade, and war's on psychotic. And yeah, basically and Black Adam's trying to be reasoned with by this woman, and they're just doing a name calling match at this point where Black Adam calls her naive, and she just says, "You're arrogant." He says disrespectful, and then tells Black Adam, "You're alone." Yeah, so I think that should say something about the relationship between these two. So where are they going to start making out now? So yeah, we got back to Clark Kent being yelled at by Lois Lane for his little stunt. And yeah, that didn't end well. And yeah, Superman's trying to adjust to like beyond the cape thing, and turns out Clark Kent was rehired with a raise, so that certainly helps. And we come back to their interview that they did, and how Supernova's trying to help as many people as he can. However, they still don't know the question. That cuts to Booster Gold screaming at the top of his lungs, "Who's underneath the mask?" And then Skid says, "It's a mystery to me." And how Booster Gold's life has been tarnished, and his public relationship is down. Yeah. And then we come back to the other plot line featuring that scientist guy, and I don't really know what's going on that. Talking about the weird radiation egg, a cocoon of some kind that's been opened, and he's trying to figure out what was in there and whatever happened out and whatever hatched out of there. So we'll have to cut back to that later. Now let's move on to issue 11 and finally finish these last two issues. We finally get the Batwoman Begins issue, where we cut to three kids trying to find out about the cult. What looks to be three kids about the whole cult of Connor. And sure enough, Ralph Dibny is pissed off and starts to attack, and then she just freaks out, and then Ralph Dibny realizes, oh my god, how old are you? Oh god, I didn't realize. Yeah. And there's been a burglary, and then we cut back to the question and Renee Montoya talking in some field, and sure enough, we get to the also subtle Batwoman character. Yeah, I'm surprised for all their intelligence, they have not figured out the connection because she just looks exactly like Batwoman. Sorry if I gave it away, but I'm surprised they haven't figured it out. So they're arguing about the relationship. Question's trying not to interfere. And Kate is like pissed off now. And then Renee Montoya, the Question are getting a talk about how she can't seem to let it go, and how she's in this grief state, and how she feels guilty about it because she did the right thing and she can do what she wanted to do. Then we cut back from that. Renee Montoya is talking with the Question about something, and sure enough, they talk about Intergang, and then sure enough, the mysterious Batwoman is watching over them. Then the Question and Renee Montoya are continuing their investigation and are attacked by a wolf, because the DC Universe, and this woman that looks like a reptilian scale person, and sure enough, I was correct. And yeah, Renee Montoya and the Question seem to be subdued, and then Batwoman comes in to save the day. And Renee Montoya seems to already be infatuated with her. And yeah. Renee Montoya quickly deduces that, yeah, that's her. Yeah, it's Kate. And sure enough, Renee Montoya then just tells Bruce to go. Tells the Question when he says, "I think she likes you," and Renee just says, "Shut up." Then we cut back to the Cult of Connor, and it turns out they have some little plan. While all this is going on, Ralph is investigating the break-in, and it turns out that one of the plans involves making a wicker-based replica of Sue Diffney as part of their resurrection plan. Yeah, let's revive the dead by breaking in and entering. I mean, like, we could just ask him for help because he cares about Sue Diffney, and they could just say something about it. But then we cut back to Gotham City and week 12, issue 12, and basically she's scolded at and how she's not on the force. So yeah. We then cut back to Renee Montoya heading home, and basically the Question's meditating or something. And yeah, she's kind of angry right now, and she wants to know what the hell's going to happen next. And then the Question just says, "Alright, you win. We'll go to Karak." Sure enough, we head back to Karak and how Black Adam's being bowed at, and he tries to tell him that I'm your leader, not your ruler. And how he's trying to basically become a better person with her. And sure enough, he's basically trying to steer him towards a path that doesn't involve, violent aggressiveness. And then he takes her to this Sanctimony church area, to where Shazam turns out to be at, where Billy Batson is kind of been going a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And he starts yelling at the statues that represent the 7 deadly sins. And then Black Adam reveals that he wants to invite the woman that he just recently met for about a couple of weeks to join the Marvel family. Then we cut back to Wonder Girl and her phone, and yeah, she's on the phone, and turns out that yeah, he's already in her house, and Cassie's trying to figure out how he figured this out. And then Wonder Girl talks about how she felt like she had to deceive them, and how they're trying to make a trial attempt by resurrecting Renee Montoya, by resurrecting Sue Diffney. And Wonder Girl apologizes that they had to deceive him, and then Ralph Dini says that he wants to help. He wants to resurrect his wife from the dead too. He wants to help. And sure enough, Black Adam continues his talk with the girl that he just recently met about how she wants to meet, how she wants to understand why she wants to be brought into the group. And sure enough, then he says this. Then he tells her to put on the necklace, and then Billy Batson is like, "Take the amulet, Adrian. Let the words flow into you," while looking all tired and grumpy, like he just woke up. And then she says she hears a simple prayer, and then Black Adam tells her to say it, please say it, and then she screams out, "I am ISIS!" And then she says and then Black Adam says, I'm gonna try to pronounce it. I most likely will screw it up. Adrian, and then she responds saying, "No, Teth Adam, call me by my new name." Sure enough, Billy Batson then just screams at Sloth, telling him to stop snoring. "And you can stop bragging, Pride. This whole affair has nothing to do with you." And then she tells Black Adam that she can feel this new power inside her. Nature is calling her, asking her what it can do to help in the crusade. And then Black Adam says, "I'm hoping it will be our crusade. Help me, ISIS. Help me change the world for the better." And then she says, "I will, Adam. I will join you on your mission as soon as we find my brother," while having a sickly sweet smirk on her face. So clearly Black Adam's going to be interested in her. Now we cut to the final issue of our Volume 1 recap, as best as I can. Week 13, featuring the Cult of Connor stuff. And sure enough, Ralph Dibny brought in these individuals when it turns out that he brought them in for one reason. He wanted to know if they're not here to stop it. That's a different alternative. He wants to know if it would help, if it would actually work. And then it says, yeah, he says that what you just look around you, this is crazy talk. And I'm like, BS? Like, isn't Ra's al Ghul having a bunch of Lazarus pits that can revive the dead? Didn't Jason Todd just recently come back? How many times has Superman died? How many times has Wonder Woman lost her powers? How many times has Batman got his back broken? What about that time when Nightwing survived Infinite Crisis, even though he was originally scheduled to die by Dan DiDio because Dan DiDio hates him? And whatnot, and like they're trying to decipher, and you're saying that a cult dedicated to somebody, it's impossible to believe there's a resurrection possibility. In fact, how? You were dead. You died in 0 hour after you went crazy because of an alien parasite that represents fear. Yeah, I'm not kidding on that. So they're in this little debate. Yeah. And then they give this call for... and then Green Lantern tells Ralph Dibny that whatever he decides now will back off or we will step in. Whether away, it's your call. Then we cut back to Adriana, aka ISIS, and Black Adam is trying to help she and her are rescuing as many children as possible. And it turns out that these children, and then she tells Black Adam to not do any violence in front of the children. Think of the children! And sure enough, these children don't want to see it and they're thanking her. And then she offers them a chance to... And how Black Adam's trying to say that you've shown them hope, how he's shown him hope, and how they will find her brother and free all the children in the world doing it. And yeah, romance is blossoming more so. And sure enough, Ralph Dibny destroys the red kryptonite. And sure enough, they proceed to destroy everything that happens going on with how Ralph Didney's saying that they're trying to stop this enormous con, and how Wonder Girl and whatnot is pissed off, and how she says she loves Superboy, and how this shouldn't have happened. And Ralph Didney tries to say that you've been brainwashed, and how Wonder Girl's saying you don't know that, you don't know anything, and yeah, basically they're in this huge fight and trying to figure out what's going on, and all the chaos. Ralph Didney's trying to say that this is a whole scam and how this was a manipulation attempt, and then sure enough, much to his horror, that turns out Sue Diffney's Wicker form was moving on about and calling out to Ralph's name, and then he realizes what happens. And it turns out to be that this wasn't a trick and that this was serious. And sure enough, the Cult of Connor just says that, and the leader of the group says, "How? We have no secret waters. We have no kryptonite. Thanks to you, we have nothing." While Ralph screams in horror, saying, "Wait!" And then as the chaos continues to happen and the building starts to burn down, Ralph Dibny, in his crazed, demented state, starts to hold on to the burning body of the Wicker Sue Dibny, leading to this massive explosion. And now they found out that Ralph Dibny might have escaped and the wedding rings have been left behind. But now they don't know what's going to happen. But meanwhile, we go past that and we go underneath a bridge where someone's saying, "Try again, try again, try again." And Ralph Dibny's holding the burning singed remains of the Sue Wicker, and a mysterious cloaked figure watches in the distance, while Ralph Dibny just mutters, "Try again, try again, try again," in his demented state. And that concludes the first 13 issues of 52. Yeah, I know I had to cut some parts and move forward with a bunch of stuff, but like I said, I don't know every single character in the story. I know select few, and as you know, I went on this continuity rant about how Jordan walking around is proof that the Red Dead can't be resurrected, even if it's a crazed cult. But yeah. Also, in this big book, and the other one, it also comes with backstory. It also comes with production details and some scrapped ideas they had. Like I said, like it comes with concept design, scripts, alternative story elements, and a bunch of stuff and old sketches they had planned to do for the story. But yeah, so that ends the first 13 issues of 52. It's becoming more exciting as I talk about this. I've enjoyed it for the most part. As the story continues, I hope to actually get more enjoyment out of this as I continue reading the last half of this 500-page book, and then move forward to the other 52 book that finishes up the last half. And like I said, I might talk about the tie-in World War III that was made as a 4-issue series. And yeah, 52. There's for as much as some problems I have, like trying to figure out which characters are which and whatnot, I have enjoyed this series so far, and I hope to get a very great resolution from this. Like I said, I'd like to thank Linkara for basically recommending me this when I watched his countdown video. And like I said, this was considered to be an ambitious project by the people of DC, and a lot of people were finding it crazy that you're going to have all these talented writers, the 4 talented writers, get together to produce a weekly series to cover the missing year of the DC universe and introduce new characters, concepts, storylines, and future plot details that would impact later future stories after the 1-year initiative that happened. But honestly, this was the first 13 issues were pretty damn good in my mind. I'm looking forward to more stuff in the future in the next 3 videos. But like I said, those are going to have to come later, as we'll be covering some Elimination Chamber stuff. The 2 Elimination Chambers, the Cruiserweight match probably, and the women's match. But yeah, and then I had to also finish up some Royal Rumble videos. I was originally going to talk about Brock Lesnar and Finn Balor's match, but after what happened with Lesnar and his reveal and how he doesn't give a shit, that's out of the question in my opinion. And it was only 8 minutes long, so that wasn't really anything. So yeah, we have a lot of story left to go through. I cannot wait to see what happens in this. It's gonna be pretty much a hell of a time reading this again. And those were my thoughts on DC Comics' 52 issues 1 through 13, or weeks 1 through 13. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. For if you like, comment, subscribe, and donate. And stay tuned for more.